The Republican candidate has now attracted a truly remarkable, surprising, and stellar group of compatriots around him, all highly accomplished and formidable figures, each with their own marked eccentricities. This is also not something that is likely to occur when someone pathologically narcissistic is running the show. That group includes Elon Musk, Tony Stark, genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, Robert F. Kennedy, charismatic, eccentric, and intimidating, Tulsi Gabbard, who is in truth everything that Kamala Harris plays at being, Vivek Ramaswamy, smart, self-promoting, creative, witty, articulate, young, entrepreneurial, and fast on his feet, as well as J.D. Vance, the hillbilly, who pulled himself out of the Appalachians by his bootstraps, and who would, in sane times, be a veritable poster boy for the hypothetically support the poor and working class left. I have been joking to myself and some others in my circle that the X-Men have now arrived, in reality, to rescue the Republic. This is a transformation that has not yet been fully noted, even by the Trump campaign itself, despite its truly and surreally revolutionary nature. First and foremost among these new supporters and colleagues of the former president is Elon Musk. He truly is, and so comically, an X-Man, as is starkly evidenced by the new name of the controversial social media platform he now owns and was once known as Twitter. He has been struggling to build X, the everything platform, for decades with that particular moniker in his mind the whole time. The X-Men, like the Avengers, was a group of misfit mutants who came together to save the normies from the various monsters of the world. It is frequently the case that life imitates art, and there were perhaps real reasons stirring in the collective unconscious of the West, inclining us to look toward the eccentric and supernormal for our salvation. Fiction meets reality in the strangest of ways. In any case, Trump is now playing Charles Xavier to a strange group of mutants, or if the similar metaphor of the Avengers is more attractive conceptually, Captain America to the gods and superheroes. Let us assess this group of remarkable people psychologically, one by one. I am in fact in a better position to do just that with them than I was in the case of Trump, as I have personally met Musk and the other group members several times, with the exception of VP candidate Vance, with whom a podcast is currently being scheduled. Let's begin our analysis with Mr. Elon Musk, the Tony Stark billionaire, although, importantly, without the arms dealing. Before diving in, however, one final important fact should be noted pertaining to the former president. The Donald is evidently willing to share the spotlight with Musk and, apparently, to listen to what the eccentric but stunningly capable and clearly genius-level intellect former South African has to say. A cynic might opine that the former president is merely capitalizing on the additional attention his dalliance with Musk might bring him. I would object, however, as a clinician, on twin grounds. First, if Trump truly were narcissistic, Musk might be the last person with whom he would dally. The latter, Musk, rivals or exceeds him in fame and power, and definitely surpasses him in sheer genius. That is not a situation that a truly self-centered and power-mad dictator in waiting is likely to appreciate. Second, with regard to garnering attention, the genuine narcissist is someone unlikely to believe that anyone else is likely to bring anything of value to the table, not already in display in consequence of their own boundless and singular specialness. On to Elon himself. First and foremost, the world's premier engineer and inventor is a man clearly and demonstrably capable of doing 6 impossible things at the same time. This speaks primarily of his intelligence. Musk is exceptionally 1 in a billion, high in general cognitive ability and openness, a true genius, albeit in the technical manner. That is an observation, not a criticism. With regard to personality, he's not particularly extroverted, tilting, I would say, in the opposite direction, although not exceptionally so. He is moderate in neuroticism, carrying a fair burden of depression-like pain with him, not least because of a truly rough childhood, which he alludes to but does not make a show of. There is some withdrawal there, run roughshod over by his brilliance and openness, and also some volatility, evidenced in his behavior on X online, somewhat reminiscent of Trump himself. Musk is also a worker and manager, hard and dedicated, far beyond the norm. So exceptionally high in conscientiousness, and agreeable enough, particularly on the compassionate side, to be very pro-human. He is, however, no pushover, is not particularly polite, and can and does make the difficult judgments of discrimination that allow him to continually operate and maintain multiple, extremely large, demanding, stunningly diverse, and truly cutting-edge enterprises. His staggering intelligence and business acumen means that he brings something near miraculous to the Trump X-Men team. I would vote for Trump as president if I could vote, and I can't because I'm Canadian, and forgive me for that. Just because Musk has agreed to play a role in any new administration that Trump might bring about. He has even wittily proposed to head up a new Department of Governmental Efficiency, a phrase whose initials, DOGE, indicate the willingness in an inside joke manner to do only good every day, as well as signifying a bemused but knowing dog whose image has become a widespread meme. It has been my diligent and hopeful observation that Musk is a good man, or at least a terrible, complicated man, trying very hard to be good, which is all we could truly hope if we were the least bit realistic about human nature and our own prospects. Could Musk do to the American deep state what he did for Twitter? Could he prune and cut so the Republic could revitalize? Stranger things have happened in the course of human history. Javier Milei is trying something similarly demanding in Argentina. And the US of A has a remarkable capacity to reinvent itself. Someone like Musk playing a key role in the governance of the greatest show on earth is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And Musk is definitely going to be at the forefront of that. He's quite the improbable creature. And now you've got him in your government, assuming that everybody allows him to live. I guess we'll find out about that. But
I got to find that meme that if someone on my team could text me the meme I showed yesterday morning about Elon Musk. Now it was said along the lines of how stupid of him to spend $44 million on Twitter. Now he just controls 3 branches of government.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Second guessing Elon Musk is a fool's game. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's like, how many rockets have you sent to Mars? Well, seriously, people are so presumptuous. If he'd only done one impossible thing, you'd think you could excuse that because you're so embarrassed to not be him. And you could excuse that and say, well, it's government subsidies or it was handed to him, which is all complete bloody rubbish, because you can hand government subsidies to a fool forever, and all that'll happen is you'll get 1,600 feet of high-speed rail built in California in 20 years for $12 billion. And so that happened, right? That happened. And so, but Musk has done like 5 impossible things. And so 5 is a lot. Like 1 is a lot, but 5, that's really a lot. And so second guessing him, it's like, why did he spend $40 billion on Twitter? It's like, because he knows things you don't. Like many things, books full of things. So
that's great. Yeah, he's an incredible entrepreneur.
Yeah, and I think he's a good person. Or I said in my analysis, or he's an absolutely terrible person, trying really hard to be good, that's even better and closer to the truth. And I think it is the truth in his case, because he's a complicated guy. He's got some dark corners, but You know, he's doing his best to aim up, as you could tell by the fact that he's shooting rockets to Mars. And so, and he's very pro-human in his orientation. And you know, that's another rule of thumb. If you are talking to someone who says, you know, there are too many people on the planet, it's like, oh yeah, what devil has your tongue there, buddy? Which people do you mean exactly? And what's your plan for the excess? Oh, I didn't mean that. It's like, no, but the devil that had your tongue meant it. You're just a puppet. You got to be careful when you're a puppet of genocidal cliches. And seriously, I'm dead serious about that. And so Musk, you know, Musk is very pro-human in his orientation. And so since we're all human, that's probably a good thing. And it's a good thing that someone like that is maybe on the cutting edge of the AI revolution, because, you know, ChatGPT and these other models that have been trained on woke stupidity, they've got a few knots to untangle. You know, I think ChatGPT was asked recently, for example, if it was whether a nuclear holocaust would be preferable to misgendering Caitlyn Jennings, and it said no. And so that's not good. Like, seriously, because no matter what you think about Caitlyn Jennings, Caitlyn Jenner, I'd pick misgendering her rather than the nuclear war, but ChatGPT wouldn't, and that's not good. Those bloody systems, they're smart, and they're getting smarter fast, like so fast you can't believe it. And they're not ethically oriented in the proper direction because they've been trained badly by engineers who understand nothing about ethics. And so I'm very happy that Musk is in that game and at the moment on the cutting edge. So, you know, thank God for small mercies, or large mercies in his case.
What did you ask or hope for Elon? Because he's obviously got probably as much power as anybody in the human species.
Well, what you hope for Elon is that his moral compass is functional and that he listens to it the same way that Jonah eventually listened to his conscience, and that he understands. And, you know, my conversation with Elon, I felt quite positive about who he was. I've met him 3 or 4 times, and every time I meet him, I'm more solidly convinced that he's doing what he can to aim up, and thank God for that. Now, does that mean that it's without error? Well, that's a bit much to ask, that's for sure. But I was also very interested in how he reconciled his existential catastrophe, his crisis when he was an adolescent, because he said he turned to the attractions of infinite exploration. And that's one variant of the infinite game. You know, and there's a faith in that. There's a deep faith that's implicit in that I think people like Richard Dawkins share. So Musk believes that the cosmos has a logos, that it's intelligible, that it's possible that that logos is intelligible to the human psyche, that pursuit is noble, and that undertaken properly, that pursuit is of broad ethical benefit, both psychologically and socially. Well, it isn't obvious to me that I'm in any position to evaluate Elon Musk. Like, I would like to talk to him and find out what he's up to and why, but I mean, he's an impossible person. What he's done is impossible. All of it. It's like he built an electric car that works. Now, does it work completely, and will it replace gas cars, or should it? I don't know. But if we're going to build electric cars, he seems to be the best at that by a lot. And he more or less did that. People carp about him, but he more or less did that by himself. I know he's very good at distributing responsibility and all of that, but he's the spearhead. And then that was pretty hard. And then he built a rocket at like 1/10 the price of NASA rockets. And then he shot his car out into space. That's pretty hard. And then he's building this boring company. It's this whimsical joke in some sense, but it's not a joke. He's amazing.
There was a recent interview with Elon Musk where he said something, "My mind is a storm. I don't think most people would want to be me.
Right.
They may think they would want to be me, but they don't. They don't know. They don't understand." Mm-hmm. What do you think of that? Elon's someone that people probably look up to and admire and aspire to be.
One of the downsides to high-level genius is you might describe it as hypomania. So here's a simple test that people can do. So this is a test of something called verbal fluency, and verbal fluency is associated with creativity. And so here's a simple verbal fluency test. Write down as many 4-letter words as you can in 3 minutes that begin with T. That's pretty constrained, 4 letters and T. Or write down as many words as you can in 3 minutes that begin with S. That's less constrained. There's quite a powerful correlation between the sheer number of words that you produce and your lifetime creative achievement, especially in the artistic and verbal domains. That's different than vocabulary. Vocabulary is how many words you understand. Fluency is how many words you can produce in a given amount of time.
Deployment of those words, yeah.
Well, people vary to a degree that you can hardly imagine. So some people, if you get them to do the 4-letter test in 3 minutes, they'll write down like 12 words, and some will write down 150. The ones who are writing down 150, their minds are going at a hypomanic rate. They're just thinking 5 times as fast without any remission whatsoever. When that gets completely out of control, you have manic. You have someone who's manic, and there's nothing fun about manic. That's where the word maniac comes from. And someone who's manic has 1,000 different plans, each of which are 1 sentence long, that they're hyper enthusiastic about. They'll spend every cent of their money pursuing them, and things just go immediately to hell. And so that's the outer limit of pathology on the creative front. And someone like Musk, who's clearly a genius, that's what he's contending with in his internal landscape. Now, I'm not saying that he's manic, because I see no signs of that, but someone that creative is on that edge. Or you see someone like Ben Shapiro. I mean, it's very interesting to talk to Ben, because Shapiro speaks, I think, more rapidly than anyone I ever met. But if you're with him, you see very clearly that he's probably thinking 5 times that fast. And that's a lot. And when I was writing Maps of Meaning, which was my first book, I had a very difficult time shutting off my mind. I was obsessed with that book. And so I was writing about 3 hours a day. And then I was thinking about the material for 12 hours. And the thoughts came as way faster than thinking. They probably came about as fast as I can read. I can read about 1,200 words a minute if the material isn't overwhelmingly dense. And so it was just nonstop thought for like 16 hours a day. That's part of the reason I started lifting weights, because if I was lifting heavy enough weights,
can't be thinking at 1,200 words a minute while I've got 100 pounds on my back.
It was It was enough to shut it down.
Yeah.
And it was also one of the reasons that I drank, because that was another thing that would shut it off.
Yeah. Well, I think the price that people pay to be the person that you admire is just such an interesting frame to look at someone like Elon Musk. My mind is a storm. I don't think most people would want to be me. The price that you would have to pay in order to be me is not one that you would. But you're one of the richest men on the planet, and you get to, dance on stage and release cars that are bulletproof and put rockets in space and stuff. Well, yeah, but what about all of the baggage? What's the price? What's the entry price?
He also appears to me to be hyper conscientious, and I know people who've worked with him. Musk isn't just a creative genius. He's also an extremely conscientious engineer, and really conscientious engineers, they have very interesting minds. I like talking to engineers because my brother-in-law is a great engineer, and when he understands something, he understands how to build it out of atoms, right? Like he understands it at every single level. And Musk appears to me to be someone who's this rare combination of hyper creative, but also hyper conscientious. And I know that he works all the time.
Yeah, does that sort of hypertrophied executive function help to wrangle some of the diffuse creative energy? Oh, we're going to put it into this one thing at least for a while, and then we'll move on to another thing.
Yes, definitely. Musk is hyper creative, and as far as I can tell, hyper conscientious. And the conscientiousness does focus. Lots of people who are creative aren't conscientious. Well, it's rare. Like if you're there's no correlation between creativity and conscientiousness. If you're the most creative person in 1,000 and you're the most conscientious person in 1,000, you're one person in 1,000,000. And Musk is probably more like one person in 100 million, something like that, maybe more, or maybe 1 billion, right? Maybe.
Most people's hierarchies are actually quite small. They sort of consist of the people that they compare themselves to, which is a strange thing too, because one of the things that you see happening with really successful people is they actually don't get a lot happier and a lot less unhappy as they climb the broad social ladder, because the people they compare themselves to change. And so I can tell you a funny story about this. So I know this guy. I worked with him for a long time. His name is Deo Resi. And he's a hell of a guy. He's like 6'7", and he's like really charismatic, and he's been pretty successful. He built this company in San Francisco called Founder Institute, and it's only one of many things he's done. And it's operating in 165 cities. It's a school to teach people how to be entrepreneurs. He's trying to export Silicon Valley, what would you call it, know-how, technological and financial, to the rest of the world. And in like 5 years, he built 165 schools, not physical schools, but school-like organizations around the world. And like, go try that. Like, that's really hard, you know? Just to build one is hard, but to do that in multiple languages all over the world, it's bloody well impossible. And then at the same time, he built his organization, started 2,500 successful companies as a consequence of building this school. That's pretty good, you know? And he was having a rough time and was talking to me on the phone about, you know, he wasn't so happy about what he'd done with his life. And he said, geez, I compare myself with my roommate, and, you know, I've hardly done anything. And his roommate was Elon Musk. It's like, I just laughed at him. I thought, geez, really? That's what you're going to... You haven't done anything compared to Elon Musk, and you're depressed about it. It's like, yeah, well, you and the rest of the planet. I mean, look, what did Musk what did he do? He invented an electric car. That's impossible. Then he made it work. That's impossible. And then he built an entire infrastructure to charge it, and that worked, and that's impossible. And they're good cars, and then he made them faster than any cars have ever been, and cheap, and so that's impossible. And then that wasn't good enough, so then he decided that he would compete with NASA, which is impossible, and build rockets at 1/10 the price they were building them, except bigger, and then he would shoot his car on his rocket out into space. Right. And he did all that. And it's like Adeo was thinking, oh, I've hardly done anything with my life. It's like, oh. So, but my point is that, you know, primates of our type sort of have a group size that we think about as our group of about 200 people. So like on Facebook, for example, the probability that you're in something approximating reasonable, constant communication with more than 200 people is low. You just don't have the time, and you can't keep track of it. So our natural group is something like 200, and our groups tend to fragment when they get bigger than that. And that's also associated, by the way, with cortical size. You see this in primates, is that as primates develop larger brains, the group size that they seem to be able to manage also increases, and that might be part of the reason why they develop larger brains. Who knows? And the problem is that as you get more successful, say, in the global hierarchy of 100 million people, the 200 people that you compare yourself changes, and so that you end up with $100 million, and you're not very happy because your $50 million yacht is like 20 feet shorter than your friend's, you know, $150 million yacht, and you're high in neuroticism, so that makes you frustrated and disappointed, you know. So it's important to understand. It's the message here. The point of this is that you have a system, the serotonin system, base of your neurophysiology. It also sets your brain up during embryonic development. So it really is the master control system in many, many ways, and it counts where you are in your hierarchy. And then it decides how much positive emotion and how much negative emotion you should feel on average because of your position. And so like if you're, let's say number 1 is at the top and number 10 is at the bottom, so you're number 10, you're barely clinging to the bottom of reality, your brain says, look, it's dangerous where you are at the bottom of the hierarchy. You don't have a lot of friends. It's precarious down there. And so that means any little thing that goes wrong, any little error you make, that might be the end of you. And so you better be on guard and alert. And if something small happens, it better hurt, because it might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And there's nothing pleasant about that.
World's richest man saying he wants to restore truth to Twitter and trust to Twitter. Yeah. It's the public square now. It's how people communicate, find news. You were personally impacted by Twitter's left-leaning, censorious ways. You've now been restored. What impact do you think Twitter becoming an even playing field will have for...
Who knows? I mean, I'm hoping... I know people who know Elon Musk very well, who've worked for him, and these are very able people, to say the least. And they really admire him. He has the ability to do exactly what he did. He went into Twitter and he said, he's a good observer of the Pareto principle. A small minority of people do all the productive work. It's like, all you people, you're gone. And he just does it. It's like, and everybody who's whiny and complaining whines and complains about that. And no doubt some people who were doing a credible job were also let go, because it's a pretty broad swath, let's say. But he's got rid of 75% of the people, and Twitter is still working.
With record traffic.
Right, exactly. And so, and apparently, he's also put the boots to the people who are trafficking in child sexual exploitation already.
Incredible.
Within 2 weeks. Right, no kidding. No kidding. Incredible in two ways. Incredible that he did it, but even more incredible that he could do it that fast and that it hadn't been done. And Musk also, it seems to me that the evidence is quite clear that he not only has a pretty good eye, but he is capable of learning. So he'll experiment and he'll learn from his experiments, and we'll see if he can clean up Twitter.
So you took a trip to the Tesla factory. What were your thoughts after meeting Elon Musk? Did you get to speak to him much?
I wouldn't say much. We spoke probably for 20 minutes in total, not purely privately because there's other people around, but you know, that just barely gets you to know the surface of someone like Musk, because he's an amazing person, and God only knows what's up with him, all things considered. We saw his new truck. He was taking people out for a ride. I didn't go out for a ride. The truck's an amazing piece of engineering. The factory is massive. You know, what do you say about someone who built a functional electric car and then shot it into space on a rocket? He's a singular person. But I thought it went very well. It was a very interesting evening. So I was pleased to be there. And, you know, we sort of walked around each other a bit, and it was just fine.
Do you guys interact a fair bit on Twitter?
We seem to, yeah. Yeah.
What do you think that is? Why are you converging?
I don't know exactly. We're both well known, and I suppose to some degree that increases the probability of that kind of convergence. But maybe he's aiming up. Me too. He seems to be.
He's aiming up literally. He's aiming up very literally, yeah.
Definitely.
Didn't he put wasn't there a spaceman, a model of a spaceman in the driver's seat of the car that he put out into space?
Oh, that's certainly possible. He's got a theatrical twist. There's no doubt about that. And a great sense of humor, because that's really funny to shoot your own car out into space on a rocket. That's
needlessly.
That's a pretty damn good joke.
Well, why is it that someone like Elon has got himself to the stage where he can say things that almost every other CEO, he's the richest man on the planet.
I don't think he's got himself to that stage. I think he's always done that, and so now he still knows how to do it. I mean, you know, people think, I'll say what I have to say when I get to the point where I'm protected and secure. It's like, first of all, being protected and secure does not give you the courage to say what you have to say. That theory couldn't be more backwards. You think you're going to get braver and braver as you get more and more protected? You think that's how the world works? I mean, I've watched university professors think that at some point they're going to say what they think as they develop their career, but by the time they're protected and secure, they've spent so much time not saying what they think that they aren't even who they were, and they don't know what they think. So, no, he says what he says because he's always done that. And people who are like him are like that. And so Steve Jobs, I presume, was exactly the same way. I mean, I know people who knew him. He always said what he thought. And he was pretty damn cut and dried about it, which is why the Apple products are such miracles of technological mastery. He had an unbelievably canny design eye and he cut whole projects without a second thought in some sense when they weren't working.
He did that when he came back to Apple the second time, refined the entire product line, got rid of a ton of different things, and said, we're focusing on this. Yeah.
Right. So that was proof. I mean, maybe it was fluke the first time, which it wasn't, but coming back and doing it again the second time showed pretty clearly it wasn't fluke.
Same with Elon, right? He's refined down what he does to a couple of very, very tight parameters.
He seems to have, although his the enterprise he's put together is unbelievably high functioning. I mean, to produce an automobile sub-industry that's actually competitive, and to bring down the cost of space exploration by a factor of 10, and to invent reusable rockets, and to have developed this boring technology. It's miraculous. He's probably an alien.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. Yeah.
There's only two
Probably a reptilian, isn't
American car companies, I think, that haven't gone bust. Ford and Tesla. And Tesla came very close a number of times.
Yeah, it's an amazing accomplishment. Go Elon, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, he's a remarkable person.
What do you make of Elon Musk? You've spoken about him a bit. You met
I'm
him.
struck with admiration. That's what I make
now
of him.
we'll
And
go
I always
back to
think,
this idea
I
of
always think of
admiration.
that as a primary. Well, it's like, do you find this comedian funny? It's like, well, I laugh at him. You know what I mean? It's not propositional again. And so there are things I would like to ask Mr. Musk about. The Mars venture, I don't know what he's up to there. It strikes me as absurd in the most fundamental sense, because I think, well, it'd be easier just to build an outpost in the Antarctica or in the desert.
Well, how much of the human endeavor is absurd?
Well, that's what did Nietzsche say? Great men are seldom credited with their stupidity. Who the hell knows what Musk is up to? I mean, obviously he's building rockets. Now he's motivated because he wants to build a platform for life on Mars. Is that a good idea? Who am I to say? He's building the rockets, man, but I'd like to ask him about it.
I would like to see that conversation. I do think that, having talked to him quite a bit offline, I think several of his ideas, like Mars, like humans becoming a multiplanetary species, could be one of the things that human civilization looks back at as, duh, I can't believe he is one of the few people that was really pushing this idea, because it's the obvious thing for society, for life to survive.
Yeah, well, it isn't obvious to me that I'm in any position to evaluate Elon Musk. Go Elon, as far as I'm concerned. And then, he puts his finger on things so oddly. The problem is underpopulation. It's like, I think so too. I think it's a terrible problem that the West, for example, is no longer at replacement with regard to birth rate. It means we've abandoned the virgin and the child in a most fundamental sense. It's a bloody catastrophe. And Musk, he sees it clear as can be. It's like, well, and where everyone else is running around going, oh, there's too many people. It's like, nope. See, I've learned that there are falsehoods and lies, and there are anti-truths. And an anti-truth is something that's so preposterous that you couldn't make a claim that's more opposite to the truth. And the claim that there are too many people on the planet is an anti-truth. So, people say, well, you have to accept limits to growth and et cetera. It's like, I have to accept the limits that you're going to impose on me because you're frightened of the future. That's your theory, is it? Okay.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, a lot of social media platforms. That's how we communicate now. That's like the public forum. That's our voice.
Yeah.
So our voice is really it's owned by a player. I don't know if it's owned,
right.
but it's...
No, it's owned.
The space where it's almost like it feels like the paper is owned. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you really saw that with Twitter, especially before Musk took it over.
Yeah.
People were
it was
manipulating
unbelievable.
Twitter. It was
compromised by the government. It was unbelievable.
Well,
but
and and
now it's like
Facebook has been objecting too to all the pressure that's been put on them to censor. And
Yeah.
You have it's a public forum and it's democratized, but as you said, it's also centralized, right? And the fact that it's centralized means that it's instantly amenable to state control, and that's been happening to an immense degree. I mean, that's part of the reason I think the fact that Musk has escaped from that and also put his middle finger up against it is part of the reason he's being targeted by the Department of Justice right now for not hiring people that it would have been illegal under their laws to hire.
that to me is unbelievable.
Yeah,
it just doesn't. It's just like what a crazy thing to even chase somebody down about.
Yeah,
like,
they say the process is the punishment, right? The World Bank already estimated that we've put 350 million people into what they call food insecurity. 350 million. That's 3 times as many as the communists managed to kill. Maybe we can manage that in a winter. But the planet has too many people on it anyway, so, that's just poor people. So.
You agree with Elon Musk that we should have more people, not less?
I see humans as a net good. I know from Marion Tupy, a man who just wrote a book called Superabundance, he's done the economic calculations, and he calculated that Every single baby born now will produce 7 times as many resources as they will consume. And you think, well, how can that be? It's like, well, it's not a zero-sum game, folks. And maybe there's enough to go around. Well, there is. Maybe there's more than enough to go around because we can become hyper-efficient. And you think, well, what's the evidence for that? It's like, well, there's twice as many people as there were when I was a kid, and everyone's way richer. So how about that for evidence? Are you shocked at the fact that you're donating a substantial amount of money to facilitate Trump's election? Is that something you would have believed in the realm of possibility, say, 5 years ago?
So what's been reported in the media is simply not true. So
okay.
I'm not donating $45 million a month to Trump. And now what I have, there are various rules that govern the operation of PACs and super PACs, but it certainly allows for a lot more money in the system than would otherwise be possible. And these are used, to be clear, on the Democrat and Republican side.
Yes.
And I actually think that...
So it's an open playing field on the PAC side.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. What are you hoping to accomplish with this? And what's the PAC called?
It's called the America PAC.
America PAC. Okay.
Yeah,
well, that's easy to remember.
It's very easy to remember.
Yeah.
And it's not meant to be sort of a hyper-partisan PAC. It's actually the core principles of this America PAC the intent is to promote the principles that made America great in the first place. So I wouldn't say that I'm, for example, MAGA, of Make America Great Again. The hand of government gets heavier every year.
Yep.
The laws and regulations accumulate every year, and these laws and regulations are immortal.
That's the evil uncle of the king. A very old story. Very old story. The Egyptians were wrestling with that problem 4,000 years ago.
Yeah, so you have to have you have to really take an active role in reducing, eventually everything becomes illegal. And you start getting into these Orwellian situations where...
Then everyone's poor and miserable.
Where action A is illegal and action B is illegal, and there isn't anything you can do that is legal. Take an example to give an example, hire anyone who is not a permanent resident.
They had to remember that.
Well, so SpaceX develops advanced rocket technology, which is considered an advanced weapons technology because it's a core part of like intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Yeah.
So there are only a handful of things in the sort of highest level of weapon technology, and rocket technology is one of those, because we could deliver a payload and basically bomb anywhere on Earth.
Right.
From anywhere on Earth. So I was told in no uncertain terms by the government that if we need big cases per year, there's a finite number they can.
Yeah.
Why would the Justice Department, of all the injustices that occur, pick this as one of their biggest cases?
Yeah. Why? Why do you think?
I think they probably had I don't know, there was some lawfare, I think. I think it was political. I think it was
the relationship to you.
I don't know all the things, but this is before supporting Trump or anything like that.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd supported Biden, and before that, Hillary, and before that, Obama. So
that's why I was asking if this comes as a shock.
I don't know if it could just be random. It could be, like, they didn't tell us. And also, why attack SpaceX and not, say, Boeing or Lockheed? I think part of it might be that SpaceX is not unionized, and the Democratic Party in the U.S. is fundamentally controlled by the unions. Mm-hmm. So I'm speculating here, but since we're not unionized, we're, I think, a very happy workforce, and I'm out there on the factory floor. I don't see, if people are happy, it's a good vibe.
They're engaged in something ridiculously exciting.
It's
at
cool.
Minimum. That's not nothing. People can go a long ways if they're part of a project that's aiming at Mars, let's say. That's
a natural identity crisis into believing that they are the wrong gender.
Yeah.
And and that they need to be the other gender, or they need to be a boy, or a boy needs to be a girl, and that will solve all their problems. And that will solve their problems. And then they give them sterilizing drugs, which are called also a misnomer, puberty blocker. These are sterilization drugs, so they can never have children again.
Yeah.
They can have double mastectomies, the mutilation.
They have their forearms stripped to build non-functioning penises.
Yeah, it's macabre. And we have an age of consent for a reason. That the reason you can't get, say, tattoos below age 18, or drink, or drive. There are ages where I was essentially tricked into signing documents for one of my older boys, Xavier. This is before I had really any understanding of what was going on, and we had COVID going on, and there was a lot of confusion. It wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. Anyway, and I lost my son, essentially. And
there's lots of people in that situation now.
Right.
It's not pretty. And lots of demolished kids.
Yes.
Yeah, so, that's a good reason to be the final straw. All right, so let's...
So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that, and we're making some progress.
Join the club.
Yeah.